China will cooperate with Arab countries and take steps to improve production capacities and to strengthen industrial production in the Middle East. We will help promote development in the industrial and financial sectors with exclusive loans worth $15 billion. It will be used in collaborative projects in production and infrastructure within the region. We will also offer commercial loans worth $10 billion for Middle East countries.
China supports Egypt's efforts to maintain stability and believes every country has the right to set its own path. That's what President Xi Jinping told his Egyptian counterpart at the start of a visit to Cairo on Wednesday. Well, the trip marked the first time a Chinese president has visited the country in 12 years. But in those years, Egypt has seen dramatic political and economic changes and is still struggling with the fallout. So could better China-Egypt relations provide the much-needed tonic for the North African country? And what will it mean for the rest of the continent? I'm Beatrice Marshall. Welcome to Talk Africa. Now, relations between China and Egypt span 60 years, and while Chinese investments in the country stand at just over $5 billion, the Egyptian government is targeting double these numbers in 2016. Many Egyptians already know that reviving the economy is crucial and say China has a big role to play. CCTV's Yasser Hakim has more.
It's been 12 years since the last Chinese president visited Egypt, and this year is the 60th anniversary of their official relations. Several agreements are expected to be signed by both sides. For Egyptians here, economy is a priority.
The visit of the Chinese president to Egypt is beneficial economically. China is our friend with bilateral relations and trade that date back years. Al-Sisi's visit to China recently was very good.
Projects in railways such as the electric speed train and metro and other projects to help the country.
We expect services and projects that help the poor, infrastructure projects, production, energy and the establishment of new industries to reduce unemployment.
Egyptians have supported the government's recent decision to turn east towards China rather than heavily depend on Western Europe and the US.
China is a non-aligned nation which loves Egypt, but the US and Europe's policies are the cause of terrorism in the region.
Relations with the US are tense because they only stand by us under strict conditions and tough concessions from our side that would benefit them alone. But China's relations are based on clarity and honesty.
Egypt is trying to encourage more Chinese investments here. Investments would strengthen the ailing foreign currency reserves, increase employment opportunities, and raise national income. The new Suez Canal project, inaugurated last August, has been designed to attract such investments. Antida is one Chinese company that is constructing a Chinese industrial zone in the Suez area.
The investments in the TEDA project is on 3 phases. We expect total investments to be $8 billion. Each phase will develop 2 square kilometers to construct a completely new industrial city.
The first phase is operational. TEDA attracted 33 Chinese factories with investments worth $1 billion. These companies have exported $200 million worth of products in their first 6 months. They're employing 2,000 workers in several industries.
For the industries in the new phase, there are several sectors in the modern industries such as car manufacturing, petrochemicals, energy, as well as medium enterprises.
Suez Canal is attractive for businesses because it links Asia with Africa and Europe. Chinese factories would find it cheaper and more profitable to stock, produce or assemble their products here than transport it to Africa, Europe and even the US from the Suez Canal. Egyptians are looking forward to the visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping with hopes that it will bring both countries closer together. Yasser Hakim for CCTV, Cairo.
And now to find out more about the visit and Egypt's expectations, CCTV's Lindy Mtongana is standing by for us in Cairo. Lindy, it's a very momentous time there for Egyptians. What is the significance, though, for Egypt and China of President Xi's historic visit?
Well, Beatrice, just to give you an idea of just how momentous this occasion is, how seriously both countries are taking it, Al Ahram newspaper, the leading newspaper here in Egypt, on Wednesday featured 20 pages dedicated solely to the visit of President Xi Jinping of China to Egypt. Now, that looked at some of the key areas that they're hoping from this visit will emerge as a sign that their relationship has certainly moved to a very strong level. You'll of course remember that this visit is also marking the point at which the two countries celebrate 60 years of diplomatic relations. But at this point, those relations have been upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And the significance therein, of course, is that both countries acknowledge that they need each other for further growth. Key trade agreements as well as projects that will both see them growing on a similar path towards a stronger economic development.
Well, Lindy, Egypt's economy has been struggling, and the focus here during this visit has been on trade and investment. In what way, though, is this visit going to shore up Egypt's ailing economy?
Well, what's quite interesting, as I mentioned, 20 pages dedicated in an Egyptian newspaper with regards to this visit. And a lot of that conversation has been around the agreements and the deals that are to be signed between these two countries. Figures touted to the extent of around $15 billion in financial commitments from China to Egypt. And now that's looking at areas such as energy, looking at areas education is another one that's also been quite key, infrastructure, small to medium-sized enterprises, another key area that the two countries are looking at. Now, for Egypt, this certainly means a lot. The country's economy has struggled significantly over the past few years, and they are looking for more partners, more global partners in boosting their economy. And as we know, that a key factor in all of this is that a stable Egypt does have implications for a stable region as far as the Middle East and North Africa is concerned. This not only important to China, but more so to the international community.
Well, Linda, this visit is coming on the back of the just concluded Forum for Africa-China Cooperation that happened in December in Johannesburg, South Africa. And there, President Xi unveiled a 10-point plan to help in Africa's development. What is the wider implications, though, of this particular visit to Egypt for China-Africa relations, coming just weeks after that historic FOCAC meeting in South Africa?
Well, as far as geopolitical conditions are concerned, Egypt in itself is placed quite strategically within the Middle East, North Africa region, and as a partner and an influential voice, not only in the Middle East, but also in Africa. When it comes to trade, the Suez Canal is of paramount importance. A lot of its economy depends on a functional Suez Canal for trade routes. Now, this is where China comes in quite strategically. The One Belt, One Road, and of course the Silk Economic Project, China's Silk Economic Project, this partners quite well with the Suez Canal. And the potential there for other countries, both in the Middle East and even into Europe, but specifically African countries, stand to benefit greatly from increased partnership in this area between China and Egypt.
Right, Lindy Mtongana for us there in Cairo. Thank you. Now, since his election, Egyptian President El-Sisi has favored stronger ties with China. Both countries upgraded relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership last year. CCTV's Adel Mahroui talked to the Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry about the main points expected to arise during President Xi's state visit.
There has been sort of a reformation in the Egyptian foreign policy in general. We've seen Egypt strengthening its bilateral relations with many Eastern countries. It was slightly evident after the election of former President Mohamed Morsi by his visit to China, but it was much more stronger with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's administration. What were the main reasons for Egypt at that stage to re-evaluate these foreign policies?
After the 25th of January and the 30th of June revolutions, Egypt has been seeking to fulfill the demands of the Egyptian people in all aspects, to restructure the executive authority and to stand up for its responsibilities. Egypt is keen on balanced ties with all countries of the world, cooperative ties that lead to mutual benefits. To fulfill these Egyptian demands and to build on the strong existing foundation between Egypt and China is what the people want. We have rich relations that have always been managed wisely to intensify these ties with China to achieve the best for our people.
How do you feel about President Xi Jinping going to have an artistic site in Luxor to go to visit our ancient Egyptian antiquities?
Our two peoples feel that the civilizations they've created had an impact to form human heritage. It's also a tie between both nations. Their civilizations rose in parallel forms, and there's a feeling that this ancient history is common between them. There's always interest in the communication between ancient Egypt and the continuity of it with the ancient Chinese civilization and vice versa. Egyptians are always interested to know more about the great Chinese heritage. That's something common between our people. The Chinese president's visit has a great significance and deep meaning. The two countries with this immense heritage are now participating positively in humanity's modern era, continuing their ancient legacy.
Well, we are going to take a short break now, but when we return, I'll have expert guests standing by to help further unpack China-Egypt relations. Stay with us.
China has a comprehensive and strategic relationship with Egypt. President Xi's visit to Egypt will bring a new era of the relationship between the two countries. The visit will promote not only political cooperation between the two countries, but also economic, cultural and tourism cooperation. Egypt is one of the locations on China's One Belt, One Road strategy. Egypt also welcomes China's One Belt, One Road strategy, and the two leaders will talk about cooperation on this project. Egypt is also preparing to further explore the Suez Canal possibilities. I believe that during President Xi's visit, the two leaders will make great achievements on several areas of cooperation.
Now that was a Chinese ambassador to Egypt, Song Ai-guo, expanding on expectations for President Xi Jinping's recent visit to the country. Welcome back to Talk Africa. And now to help further unpack the growing relationship between China and Egypt in light of the visit, I have expert guests standing by for me. In Nairobi, consultant economist David Awiro. In Cairo, Dr. Mohammed Hussein, professor of political sciences at the Cairo University. And in Beijing, Chia Shudong, senior research fellow, China Institute of International Studies. Thank you all for joining in the conversation. I'll start off with you, Dr. Mohammed Hussein, there in Cairo. It is quite a momentous time there for Egypt, the first visit by a Chinese head of state since 2004. How significant is this for Egypt, and how is Egypt viewing President Xi's visit?
Well, this is a very important visit. It comes after 12 years of not visiting Egypt, and this is the first in the time of President Sisi, and it is the first in the 2016. Two cultures, two great nations meet together, and we look forward to have more cooperation with China. We welcome the Chinese president and the delegation accompanying him to this great country, and I am sure Egypt looks forward to having more cooperation with China, which is a great nation with no imperialistic tendencies at all. So we look forward to this important breaking through mutual cooperation, which will benefit both sides, Egypt and China at the same time.
Chia Shudong, though, Egypt is looking forward to more cooperation from China. On China's side, how much importance is China putting into the Egyptian visit, given the fact that this is President Xi's first overseas visit this year?
Yes, China attaches great importance to China-Egypt relations. The two countries have been good friends, good brothers, and good partners for many decades. And China views Egypt as a major power country in the region. Egypt is a country belongs to the Arab world, the Islamic world, and also Egypt is an African country. So it can serve as a bridge between China and the region. And so now actually there have been great potentials for further cooperation. So I believe that President Xi Jinping's visit to Egypt will boost the bilateral ties, enhance mutual strategic trust between the two countries, and will explore more areas of cooperation between the two countries.
Right. David, of course, you're watching this from East Africa, and this visit to Egypt is coming against the background of a recent visit to Africa, to South Africa, where there was the Forum for China-Africa Cooperation. What's your take on President Xi's visit to Egypt?
Well, I think it's very, very important because Egypt has a very strategic economic geographic location. Given Egypt's participation in African's marketplace, and also Egypt's placing in terms of bordering the Mediterranean with access to Europe, but also bordering the Red Sea in the eastern side with the Suez Canal. If you consider the size of Egypt's trade with COMESA, which is a big regional trading bloc for Africa, this could actually be a gateway for China to further its investments, not only in Egypt, but also to be able to access the markets of Africa through COMESA, but also the other markets of Middle East and also the European Union.
Well, Dr. Mohammed, of course, Egypt trade and investment has taken precedence during this visit, but what is it that Egypt is seeking from China?
Well, we can benefit from such a visit in the field of direct investment, which China can do more in this regard. Secondly, around the Suez Canal corridor. Thirdly, China can play a calming down for political tensions in the Middle East through mediation with Iran, with Syria, with Saudi Arabia, which President Xi has visited recently. Also, we can benefit from China in the field of technology, IT industry. We can benefit from many respects from the Chinese developmental expertise and experience, which they have excelled themselves, and we look forward to strengthening, deepening such cooperation in all these fields.
Right, Yu Xiangdong, though, you're hearing about the sectors that Egypt believes they can benefit from China. Which sectors do you think will be of more interest to Chinese enterprises?
Well, Actually, the relationship between China and Egypt has always been a win-win situation, that both countries benefit from the close ties. And so now, China is transforming its economy, its mode of production, and it now has the capacity to invest in overseas. Now it has rich resources and also investment and technology and know-how, so it can a good opportunity for China to explore more markets for Chinese capital, technology, and expertise. So Egypt is one of the major destinations for this kind of cooperation in various fields, like, for example, the investment in infrastructure. We know that Egypt needs to develop its infrastructure, which is a key for its further economic growth. And also China, for example, can work with Egypt with the building of a second Suez Canal and the building of the new administrative capital. There are great potentials for China to work closely with Egypt economically and in terms of trade.
David, a lot has been talked about the Egyptian economy and how the Egyptians are expecting a revival of that economy following President Xi Jinping's visit to Egypt. Now, one key issue that has come out here is the development of infrastructure, and particularly the Suez Canal and its relevance to the one road, one belt initiative of China. Just how significant is the Suez Canal at this point?
It is quite significant. If you look at the majority of trade, Mediterranean trade that happens in this part of the hemisphere, most of the trade routes actually go through the Suez Canal. So upgrading of it, as we've had, will contribute significantly not only to Egypt's own internal trade and contribution to global trade, but also to the region. And these, we are talking about ports like in Djibouti or the East African ports, or even way down in Madagascar and so forth. So this is a very important trading route. Secondly, if you look at the level of trade between China and Egypt, of course, it is largely unbalanced, and this opportunity offers Egypt to be able to increase its exports to China, given the growing middle class that we see coming out of China and the rising incomes. So this is certainly an opportunity not only for private capital to find its way within Egyptian borders, but also for Egypt to contribute more to within its trade with China, and also an opportunity for the region, the sub-Saharan region, for instance, to also benefit from its trade with both China as well as with Egypt.
All right, Dr. Mohammed Hussein, of course, we are seeing a lot of emphasis by President El-Sisi's government being put on the Suez Canal in terms of the negotiations going on with China. Why is this? Why is the government attaching so much importance to the Suez Canal?
Well, the Suez Canal is important not only to Egypt, but also to the entire world as a vital waterway that connects two major seas. And it carries most of the world trade. And China, being a big partner in trade and a huge country in trading with the world, and I am sure China can benefit a lot from the Suez Canal corridor. To us, the Suez Canal is very important because it can help us build our economy and build our nation as well. China's contribution to this will be taken and will be appreciated, and I am sure China will benefit from this greatly. Besides, China and Egypt have more than 60 years of mutual diplomatic and good relationship. We were the first country to recognize China. We also helped China in 1972 to get the permanent seat at the United Nations. And therefore, now we are a member next to China at the Security Council, though we are not a permanent member, but we can coordinate our efforts in order to reach good and tangible results for both of us.
Right, David, though, Chinese investments are currently standing at about $5 billion, but the Egyptian government says it wants to double that starting from 2016. How can that be done?
Actually, it's quite interesting because if you look at the level of trade between Egypt and China, currently imports into Egypt from China stands at about $11 billion US. And Egyptian exports to China are just shy of $10 billion US per year. And so given the additional investments that are likely to come out of the infrastructure development, but also the capital injection that are likely to come from China into Egypt, as well as the growing demand from China, if Egypt and China are to have a bilateral agreement, indeed it is feasible to be able to double this given the timeframes that they've put out there.
Xu Xiaodong, we're seeing, of course, a different Egypt now because Egypt has previously been a very close ally of the United States. Are we seeing a shift now in Egypt's foreign policy? What's that foreign policy likely to look?
Well, the Middle East has witnessed many problems, issues, and we have seen that there have been chaos in the past few years in many parts of the region, and powers, including the United States, have played some role in the situation in the Middle East. And China is a major country, as a member of the United Nations Security Council, would like to play a constructive role in the Middle East, addressing all the very complex issues. Of course, China does not take sides when it comes to interstate relations, like, for example, relations between Egypt and other countries of the Middle East. But China has a very clear, consistent position on regional issues, on problems there. China encourages, for example, dialogue, cooperation, encourages focus on peace and development. So China, when President Xi Jinping is there, speaking with Egyptian leaders and also speaking on China's policy towards the whole region today, when he addresses the Arab League, China's position is very important. That is, we hope to see a stable and peaceful region.
Dr. Mohammed Hussein, just to recap what we have discussed here in terms of China and Egypt's bilateral relations moving forward, what are we likely to see now in terms of a China-Egypt relationship and a China-Arab policy?
Well, actually, Egypt does not only represent itself, it also represents Africa, represents the Arab world, and a gate to the Islamic world. And I am sure China appreciates this and know very well that any cooperation with Egypt will be really taken into the regional or worldwide cooperation. Secondly, Egypt is really looking forward to having more investments, direct investments into our economy. Thirdly, the relationship will be furthered into higher points of cooperation and of meeting together.
All right, and that's all we have time for this week. But thank you to my guests and their insights. In Nairobi, consultant economist David Owiro. In Cairo, Dr. Mohammed Hussein. He's a professor of political sciences at the Cairo University. And in Beijing, Xi Xiaodong. He's a senior research fellow at the China Institute of International Studies. Remember to join the conversation online through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And do join us again next week for another edition of Talk Africa. Goodbye.